see here, kid? You gotta just go for it. Don't think about what comes after or what came before. You just gotta bend your knees, take a deep breath, and jump. And you might think, what if I fall? Well, what if you don't? What if you fly?
Switching command to internal.
From the Collaborative Studios, Open the Eye, where metaphysical, paranormal, and the unexplained meet. Open the Eye with Tanya Tyler.
A warm welcome to Dr. Samantha Vanderslice. Yes, I just said doctor, and I'm very excited. Doctor, she has a PhD in metaphysical sciences. Let's talk about everything you do, and then let's just kind of dissect everything. You're like the real deal. You've got a lot in your tool bag, and you've been on this planet for quite some time. Let's go through your entire spiritual resume. You're starting off with a PhD in metaphysical sciences, which is amazing to me. So go ahead, just tell me everything.
Well, I was actually introduced formally to metaphysics about the age of 12 through a rabbi who introduced me to the Kabbalah. My appetite was voracious to just read and study as much as I could about spirituality. And now that I'm in my 7th decade, I've had the opportunity to study and learn from some wonderful teachers and masters through the years. And my tool belt consists of a lot of body work. I've been a massage therapist since '82, and I do Swedish deep tissue as well as Ayurvedic massage and reflexology. I'm also a Reiki Master, which means I work with divine energy as a channel, a conduit for love and light, and that is a real joy to be able to share with people. I do something called Esogetic Colorpuncture, which is a little more obscure in this country. It comes out of Germany. It's very similar to acupuncture. It's based on traditional Chinese medicine. Modality is very much like traditional Chinese medicine, but instead of using needles, we use light as a carrier and color as the information. So we don't puncture the skin, but we use photons, which of course can get to everything on a subatomic level, and that carries the information of the color to the systems, the organs, and the conditions that need to be adjusted. Also, my alma mater, you might say, in nutrition is I started at the very first Whole Foods market, was their vitamin and herb and body care team leader for many, many years. I'm very blessed to have had that opportunity to learn about nutrition and about not only nutrition for the body, but also nutrition for the mind and the spirit. I'm also a Bach Flower registered practitioner and trainer. If you're not familiar with Bach Flower Remedies, you'd find it next to aspirin and Pepto-Bismol at all the train stations and bus stations in Europe because it's that common. It's a little less common here in this country, but it is actually a homeopathically prepared system of addressing mental and emotional stress, developed by Dr. Bach back in the 30s, who was a brilliant physician in England. He was also a surgeon. He was a scientist, an immunologist, a bacteriologist as well. He had a very prestigious practice on Harley Street in England. He was considered one of the most brilliant physicians of his time, but he began to realize that under all physical ailments was mental and emotional stress. And if we address that mental and emotional stress, it would not have to run out into the physical body to get our attention. So he developed a system of flower essences that address mental and emotional stress and get us back in a state of balance, in which case we can prevent physical illness, but also when we're dealing with physical illness, we can make any modality we're using to heal that more effective by having a mental and emotional balance. So it's a wonderful system. It's so safe you can give it to a day-old baby. I'm also a trainer for the Bach Flower System. I also do a lot of work with crystals and chakra balancing, especially in my Reiki practice. I've been reading tarot since I was 18, maybe 57 years ago. So that's something that I love and that I've been studying for all of these years, half a century, and feel like I'm just scratching the surface. But I've written a book called Tarot Yourself into the New Age, interpreting the tarot keys or cards as books of knowledge that were designed to be unfolded to us in this new age of Aquarius. It was disguised into picture form, and in fact, that's where our common playing cards come from, is tarot. But that was a way to disguise it and get it through the dark ages. And now that we are in the threshold of the age of Aquarius, it's time to learn how to evolve more consciously. So I love doing tarot readings, which I've been doing all over the world, actually. I'm also a hypnotherapist, and that was something I've always been interested in, because working with the subconscious mind is working with a treasure chest that we've been given and know very little about how to optimally work with it. When we're in hypnosis, as when we're in meditation or prayer, we can get below the level of conscious awareness to the subconscious. We can then eliminate programs that no longer serve us. We can add programs, we can add goals, we can add affirmations that are going to further us in what we want to achieve in our lives. I also do medical support hypnotherapy, so I can go into hospitals and work with doctors that are open to doing that, because the subconscious mind is also in complete charge of our physical, mechanical, and chemical operations of our body. So in hypnotherapy, we've seen some amazing results in conditions that cleared up overnight because we addressed the underlying beliefs that allowed those conditions to propagate. I'm also, I've got my master in past life regression, interlife regression, and prenatal regression hypnotherapy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Prenatal, that's amazing.
Because we're fully aware when we're in the womb, but there's so many things that we can't put into place because we have no experience to do that. So the emotions that our mother is experiencing when she's pregnant, we are experiencing those as well. So it's really valuable to bring the consciousness that we have as adults back to those early years or even prenatal years, and help to clarify what is ours and what we can do with what's going on in our emotions and our consciousness.
It's here.
Well, there's so much to learn.
You're
and
the
more
OG. The OG is bringing it.
I just love it. I just love learning. I love exploring the mysteries of life, and I love sharing it with people. And and because it's so exciting, we are so much more than we even have imagined.
Yeah.
And we're just starting to scratch the surface of what and who we really are, which are divine beings having a human experience.
Isn't it beautiful? I'm excited to hear the other thing.
Well, I also have been doing natal astrology charts since I started reading tarot. So I love to give people kind of that snapshot of where they came into the world, with what gifts, what challenges. We have free will, so we change every moment. So our natal charts are just that snapshot at birth. Paths we've chosen along the way can take us into whole different areas. I've gotten certified to do angel card readings. There's a lot of divination cards out there.
Yeah.
Many of them call themselves tarot that aren't tarot cards. Those are divination cards, really. And so I was certified to do angel card readings. And it's beautiful because everybody is their own true healer. Everybody has their own inner physician. Different people respond to different modalities. So I like to have a range of things that people can feel connected to, or they might not. I mean, I have some friends that are dealing with cancer right now. And so I've been working with colorpuncture. One of my friends, I said, we can do some hypnosis and work on that on a subconscious level. And he just started giggling. He said, "No, that's not for me. I live in a state of hypnosis."
Yeah.
So, some things really resonate with people and other things not as much. So I like having varieties for people to choose from.
Yeah, I do. I want to, since you just brought up the color puncture, I want to talk a little bit about that.
So this was developed by Peter Mendel in Germany. He was a naturopath and acupuncturist. He's in his late 80s now, and his best bud was Fritz Pops, a quantum physicist. They kind of combined their knowledge and came up with this system. And It's very big in Germany. The mechanism is, it looks like kind of a thin flashlight. And in it has a special bulb that shoots a light through the end of this device. And in the end of this device, you can insert different crystal rods that have specific colors. So there's a set of spectral colors, and spectral colors, which are the rainbow colors, work more on the physical issues. Then we have soul spirit colors, which work more on the energetic level. We have 3 shades of grays, which work on resistance to healing, because sometimes there's an unconscious resistance. There's some other payoff of some sort, or karma or whatever. And so if there's resistance to that, we can use the grays. And then we use ultraviolet and infrared as well.
And how long is a session like that?
The first session usually takes about an hour and a half, because there's a lot of explanation and a lot of consultation about, what is the issue and what are we looking at healing or getting back into balance. After that, the sessions are about an hour. I tell people, when you feel the need to come back, that's when we do it.
You've got so much. Let's talk about a PhD in metaphysical sciences.
It's a huge program because it addresses so many aspects of metaphysics. Everything from how to connect to your angels to how to work with essential oils. Everything you can imagine that is in the metaphysical or the beyond physical realm, you might say.
What is one of the big things that you took away from that schooling?
The biggest thing that I learned was that you've got to take the information and you've got to delve deeper, because there's so much information out there, and especially with the internet these days, that you can get all kinds of misinformation, and many of it, the times it's given to be misrepresented, but it's just misinformation that has been passed on. An example of that is in tarot. So when we studied tarot in the university, I had to call and talk to them for quite a while about some misinformation that was introductory course. Having studied it for 50-some years, I knew that some of the information was incorrect. And that you find in a lot of metaphysical books and teachings. It's called blinds. And blinds are put there specifically because in the ancient days, teachers could tell if a student was prepared and ready on conscience level to have this information, because as metaphysical schools taught, is that information, the power that we as individuals can harness through the cosmos, as accessible to Hitler as it is to Mother Teresa. So it was up to the teachers back then to make sure that the students would use it for the highest good of all. These days, that information is accessible in books, online, in YouTubes, in all kinds of ways that there's really that gap between the teacher and the student. And so because of that, a lot of information in books, etc., are misleading purposefully.
Let's go into hypnotherapy. It's one of my favorite things. I know, I love it. Let's do it. Who'd you study with?
I studied at the American Academy of Hypnotherapy. I really searched for a couple years to find the very best school to attend. So I spent a year at the university studying with them, and it was a magnificent experience. The first day I knew I was on the right track, because everything that I've studied up to this point was supported by working with the subconscious mind. Tarot was designed to speak to the subconscious mind, because the subconscious mind only speaks and thinks in images and pictures, not in words or ideas. They were designed to speak directly to our subconscious and eventually, hopefully, filter up to our conscious minds. That's what hypnotherapy is all about, is relaxing the conscious mind, the critical, judging mind, enough in a safe environment so that you can drop down into the subconscious mind, which is actually measurable from brain waves. Before we do a hypnotic experience, we co-create the affirmations, the goals that we want to implant into the subconscious mind. In that state, you're open to having these new positive goals and new positive thoughts. So it's a way to not only remove negative programs, which, let's face it, we've all experienced being small children and getting messages like you're a good girl, you're a bad girl, you're not smart enough, you're whatever. And these became, because they were given to us by authority figures, they became beliefs that have impacted our lives. So if we want to clear those negative beliefs so that we can have optimal lives, so that we can invite in all the abundance and joy and happiness that is meant for us, it's our birthright, that Spirit wants us to have, we have to take the time to look at what is getting in the way of that and consciously remove that. And that's what hypnotherapy does, as well as so many other things, because, like I said, the subconscious mind is in charge of everything that's going on in our body. So if we don't like what's happening with our body, we can change that through working with the subconscious mind.
We are talking to Dr. Samantha Vanderslice. She has a PhD in metaphysical sciences, massage therapist, Reiki Master, Reverend of the Church of Metaphysical Sciences. She is a hypnotherapist, Bach Flower teacher and practitioner, tarot card reader, author. You've got so many great things. And so we're going back to the hypnotherapy. When you back in the day when you'd go to like a carnival and then the people would be, get up here and I'm going to hypnotize you and you're going to bark like a chicken, because then some people do that. What are your thought process?
So this is what we call Hollywood. Yes, what you see in entertainment hypnotherapy is very different than therapeutic hypnotherapy.
Yes.
Entertainment hypnotherapy is it's interesting. It's fascinating. What happens with the hypnotherapist on stage, a couple things, is that he has certain people out in the audience that are already aware of what he's going to ask and is open to doing that. Hypnotherapists, especially well-trained ones, know how to read people's body language and facial expressions. So they say things up on stage and they're checking out the audience to see who's nodding and who's like paying close attention. And they can read people. You'll find that in many cases, there's some people that won't go along with it that come up on stage.
Yes,
right?
A couple, yes.
So they misread those people. But, as long as they got a few people that they're reading clearly, that's going to make the impact.
So when I do an induction, it takes a minute for me to get that, to put you down into like a theta where your brain waves are a little slower into that deep trance. What are your thoughts? I'm going back to the carnival stage. How do they do it so fast? Because they're like, okay, and I don't know what they do, but, I've always been intrigued with this. I've never asked anybody. You're here, so I thought I'd ask.
Well, there are some very well-known and very brilliant hypnotherapists that can just walk up to somebody and say, boom, you're hypnotized.
Okay.
I've seen videos of it at the academy. My professors actually knew this hypnotherapist when he was alive. Very, very well known. So it can be done.
It's interesting that they're trained to watch the nodding. They're trained to watch the body language. That makes sense now.
Body language is really valuable there's some wonderful books out there you can read about how you can tell whether a person is telling you the truth by the direction their eyes go, by how their body moves. Unless you're fully educated about it, you can't change what your body's saying. It's an unconscious response. Your pupils dilate unconsciously when you're feeling relaxed, when you're feeling passionate. There's things that happen automatically that your body does that you really don't have conscious control over. And people that know how to study that can really work with that.
Ooh, I like it. Let's talk a little bit about some of the sessions. I know you can't open up, but when you're doing a hypnotherapy session, let's talk a little bit about how long those are for you. Like something that surprised you, something that came up, something like that.
Yes, well, I've seen things like, I've seen a person who stuttered their whole lives get up and in one hypnotherapy session no longer stuttered. I've seen surgery performed, thyroidectomy performed, where the person had no anesthetic, was completely free of any chemicals except that she did self-hypnosis.
And she had surgery, physical surgery.
I watched them cut her neck and go into the muscles, into her thyroid, do the surgery, close it up, put a bandage on, very little blood, and she swung her legs over the side of that table and walked right out of the operating room.
Wow.
Yeah. I know that my professor has had several root canals without any anesthetic. So I've seen this in process, but as far as the steps go, my first session is always the same. It has to do with education at first, where we talk about what we just spoke about, the difference between stage hypnotherapy and therapeutic hypnotherapy. We talk about the 3 levels of consciousness, which I think is the most important information another human can ever have about how to work with their levels of consciousness, this computer that we have that's magnificent. Then I guide them. Then we work on a goal. What goal would you like to achieve? And I teach them about how to put that in the proper wording, because as I said before, the subconscious mind only thinks in images. It doesn't think in words. So if you're sending a message that you are not doing something, it doesn't hear not. It just gets the image of what it is you're doing. So, learning how to put our affirmations in the way that the subconscious mind can truly act on it, in a really strong way. Relax the body, teach them a little about diaphragmatic breath, because breathing is very important to move from stress to safety, sympathetic to parasympathetic. And then I deepen it, and then I guide them out of hypnosis, and we talk about their experience. Then I guide them back into hypnosis a second time, and we work at achieving that goal. And in that process, I also teach them self-hypnosis, which is something they can use for the rest of their lives.
You give them a little class, like a little teaching.
While they're in the second stage of the hypnosis, I teach them how to do self-hypnosis. And then that's something that they can take home with them and continue to do to really bring about that goal much more quickly. It's a natural state. We're always going in and out of a state of hypnotherapy, whether we've been driving down the road for 15 minutes and realized we hadn't even been paying attention, but here we're still turning at the right places and driving perfectly. Or when we're kind of about to go to sleep and we're in that alternate in-between state, or when we wake up and we're still hadn't had our coffee, we're still in that alternate state. We go in and out of hypnosis all the time. It's a natural state. We need to learn how to use that natural state in a really effective way to become masters of our lives.
Set some goals before I go to sleep.
And that's a wonderful thing to do before meditation as well. Set an intention, because when you drop down, you're dropping into the theta state in meditation as well.
Yeah.
And in prayer as well.
Oh, that's a good one, prayer. Let's talk a little bit about Bach flowers. Yes. I'm excited about this too, because this is intriguing. So interesting enough, your color puncture and Bach flowers are very big in other countries.
Yes.
Just not big here because we're not able to make tons of money off it, or corporations, that kind of stuff, whatever. So let's talk about this. It sounds amazing.
So Bach Flower Remedies, there's specific flowers that work on specific emotional states. Dr. Bach, a physician in England, he's actually the man that invented nosodes, which are the precursors to inoculation. Discovered that he could homeopathically prepare certain bacteria from the intestines of his patients, and then give that homeopathic back to them, and they would heal completely. This information, he actually saved thousands of lives in Europe, thousands of soldiers' lives in Europe during World War I. He eventually, because found that this was so much more effective with his patients to address their underlying emotional stresses, to heal them, that eventually he pretty much turned his back on traditional medicine, became what he called an herbalist. Even though he had been a physician, a surgeon, immunologist, bacteriologist, scientist, he said, I want to empower people to take their health back. I don't want them to have to go to hospitals, doctors, and all go through all kinds of machinery in order to get healthy when they can get healthy just by releasing and resolving stresses.
Name some of these flowers.
Okay, well, let me tell you, there is one combination called Rescue Remedy. He very much wanted to have them as individual essences because that way, when you combine up to 6 or 7 of them, you have over 4 million possible combinations, and you can get very specific to an individual's emotional state. Sometimes we don't have time to really do our research. We just need some help. We need some emotional support right now. So he created something called Rescue Remedy, which combines 5 individual essences. Clematis, which is the essence for when you feel disconnected, unfocused, kind of numb, which happens when you're in a very traumatic situation. You kind of want to disappear from it. It's got cherry plum for panic and terror, impatience for frustration. It's got rock rose for terror, and it's got Star of Bethlehem for sadness, grief, sorrow, and loss. The same 5 that I just mentioned with the addition of white chestnut, which is the essence for quieting a mind that won't stop. It's just amazing.
Are they selling some of these things in health and wellness stores now?
Yes, you will find them. In fact, that's how I first got introduced to the Bach Remedies, was back in the early 80s when I was working at Whole Foods Market. And part of my mission is I want to help people to know about this so that they can then create their own remedy, create their own combinations at any time. In fact, the level 1 training that I teach is for all people, whether you want to be a practitioner or not, because you can then use it for your friends and family and create their own personalized remedies at any time.
How long is that?
That's a 2 full day.
2 days. Wow.
I make them their own personalized remedy that's part of the class, and they get a lot of literature and samples. And
So there's no distilling any flowers.
no, but it's a very simple process which I can easily teach you. I mean, that's part of the level 1 is I show you how it's made.
Oh, isn't that? Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That would be good.
It's so simple and it's so beautiful.
This is all so intriguing. We're going to take a quick little break for our sponsors. You're listening to Open the Eye with Dr. Samantha Vanderslice as our guest. She is a metaphysics extraordinaire. You're listening to KWVH 94.3. Be right back. We are back. You are listening to Open the Eye. We are talking to Dr. Vanderslice, Samantha Vanderslice, metaphysical extraordinaire, but we're talking about Bach flowers. Doc, would this be similar to like aromatherapy, like the essential oils?
People confuse the Bach remedies with aromatherapy. The aroma is in the oils, in the terpenes, and that's your essential oils. The Bach remedies are basically, you might remember the old sun tea method?
Yes.
It's basically that way. It's plucked at peak bloom into a crystal bowl of spring water and left in the sun for several hours. The water carries a vibration of it. And then that's taken, then the actual plant material is sifted off. The energized water is sent literally 5 minutes up the road from the Bach Center in England to the Boron Homeopathic Center, the largest, the Nelson Homeopathic Center, which is the #1 homeopathic line in Europe, where it goes through the liquid chromatography to make sure it's got everything in it that it's supposed to be in it, and then it's bottled there and sent out to 66 countries.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. So just to even have, like, let's say some women might be going through, like, maybe, I don't know, PMS, you could create a little remedy for them to get that. Is that correct?
That's a beautiful question because it's not working on the physical, it's working on the emotional. So if somebody with PMS, for instance, comes and says, I would like a Bach remedy to deal with my PMS, my first question would be, how do you feel about it? How does this make you feel? When it comes around, does it make you feel angry? Does it make you feel sad? Does it make you feel frustrated? Does it, what are your feelings about it? Because we're always addressing the feelings. So we listen to the story because the story gives us some context, but we don't ever select the remedies based on the story. We select it based on their feelings about the story.
Emotion. Wow. I love it. So let's just say Smoking. I don't smoke, but I have friends that do, and they always want to quit. How do you feel about the smoking that you're doing or any of that kind of stuff? Could you stop? Could you give them a little remedy for smoking?
Somebody came to me, which I've had a lot of people come to me about smoking. Everybody knows that they really don't want to do that to their bodies, but it's highly addictive, and it's also emotionally addictive as well as physically. Always want to go to the subconscious mind because it's implanted in the subconscious mind, that desire. I have a beautiful process for smoke cessation with hypnotherapy. And it's not just what I do with the client, but it's also what they take home with them and different tools and different approaches that they can do to plant that freedom from the addiction. Because, there's also a lot of emotion that goes with that. A lot of people reach for those cigarettes because it's an emotional crutch. So I would ask them, what kind of feelings do you have when you notice that you want to have a cigarette? When you started smoking cigarettes, what was going on in your life, in your family, in your world? Did your parents smoke? Is this a process that you learned that got passed down? There's a lot of insight that needs to happen, and that's what we do. We do the hypnosis to plant the positive goal of being smoke-free, but at the same time, we're also looking at what's the underlying motivation, what's the underlying cause, because the smoking is a symptom. And we don't want to just cure the symptom because maybe they're going to go to some other crutch. What emotion is driving you to need that? And what belief is behind that emotion?
Because that's kind of where we can reprogram.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to jump back. You were 12 when you saw a rabbi.
Yes.
Were you a child that was very highly connected, very sensitive? Did you have already some things going on, clairvoyance or any of that kind of stuff happening?
Very much so. I was very sensitive child, born a Cancerian, very sensitive, very shy, and I had a very dominant mother. Let's just say it took her many, many years to find her gentle side. She was a very difficult woman and very highly critical. And for a very sensitive girl, that was very difficult. I happened to be speaking with this brilliant man, Rabbi Bertram Korn, speaking to him because we were both very involved. At my age of 12, we were both very involved in the integration and the peace movement. We were both touched by that very deeply. And he was a leader in that area, and I was just a little kid who was like going door to door collecting money for the church bombing in Mississippi and doing peace demonstrations and stuff like that.
How do you get involved with that at the age of 12? Because most kids at the age of 12 are riding their bikes and playing dolls and things like that. How did you get involved in stuff like that?
Like I said, I was so shy and so insecure, and what brought me out of it was seeing the bigger picture. When I heard about the bombing in Mississippi and that children, 12 and 13-year-old children were killed, it struck home. That was around my age. I couldn't understand how that could happen. Suddenly it was so much bigger than me. It wasn't about poor me, nobody gets me, I'm all alone, I'm so insecure. It was more like there is something that needs to be done in this world, and something that I believe strongly needs to be done, way more important than my little ego. I think that's what really saved me from being a sad little girl, was becoming active in the integration and peace movement.
Did you have any clairvoyance? Could you see dead people?
I saw angels, and it scared me so badly that I finally asked them to stop showing up, which they did. And
How old were you?
Probably 8 or 9.
And would they appear to you in the bedroom? Or?
Yeah, they'd appear at the foot of my bed.
And what were they saying? Do you know?
I was just too scared to even listen.
Did they appear like big bright lights?
Like a white light shaped, kind of like a female form, but not, I don't know for sure it was. It was just shaped like a human form. And it scared me so much. And it would show up at the end of my bed. I would get in trouble because I'd call out for help, because I was scared. I didn't know what it was. And I get in trouble for waking my parents up. So I asked it to please leave me alone. And then in my 20s, I started saying, now, would you please come back? I'm ready for you now.
Yeah. And did they come back?
Not in a visual form, but I did have some audio communication. Like I remember when we declared war in the Middle East, and I was beside myself. It's like, oh no, not another war.
Yeah.
And I was crying. I was driving the car. I was just sobbing. And I heard, just love. And I said, but wait, how can I? Yeah, but look at what's going, this is so wrong. This has got to stop. This is horrible. What can I do? Just love.
Oh.
And I heard that several times over. Occasionally I do get specific messages, but I feel like I'm always connected.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel the angels around me all the time, and I feel directed all the time, especially when I get out of my head and into my heart.
Yeah. Like America right now, I feel like we are not connected. I think our heart chakra is really closed as a country. Basically just all the anger and the hate that's going on right now. I think that's why we're able to have that anger and hate, is because that heart chakra is so closed. Just my thoughts.
I think it's part of the process of awakening. Right now, we're seeing such extremes. We're seeing dark and light, ego and community, hate and anger, and we're seeing hope. And it's becoming so extreme from one end to the other that I think that is going to cause many people to wake up and say, I've got to make a choice. Do I align myself with dark, anger, and hate, or do I align myself with hope, light, and love? And I think it's got to get to that point to wake a lot of people up. Now, there's always going to be souls that are here that are still really stuck in the physical, and that I think of life experience as a university. It's a classroom. And there's some people that have just come into class that don't know the basics, the ABCs, and there's some people that are ready to graduate.
I want to go a little bit about tarot cards. Where would you suggest for people that are into thinking about stepping into this? What would your thought process be to give them step 1, step 2?
Well, first of all, if your tarot is like chop suey, it's a potpourri because it brings all Western and Eastern esogenic sciences together. I would say if somebody really wants to get into tarot, they need a basic understanding of astrology, because every tarot key has an astrological or planetary signification. It has a Hebrew letter, which is super important and significant, which brings us into a whole different metaphysical science called gematria. Every key has a specific number, and so numerology plays a very important part. So when I do an introduction to astrology and an introduction to tarot and an introduction to numerology, and they all are kind of intertwined because they all come together in tarot. So I would say to get a really good basic understanding of the 12 signs of the zodiac, the 12 houses, and the planets. That's a great place to start, and something that can also give you great insight into your friends and family.
Yes, I like that. Gematria. We're hearing a lot of that right now.
Well, you could also think of it as like the universal code.
Okay.
And so more and more people are seeing that everything is really symbolic. Even our holy sacred books are very much encoded and not to be meant to take at face value. Gematria has to do with bringing numerology in as well as the vibration of the words. So an example would be the very first letter of the Hebrew alphabet is Aleph, and Aleph actually rules the 0 card in tarot, the Fool. If you take each of the letters of the Hebrew alphabet, they all have a numerological value. If you add the value of that particular word, it's going to correspond to the value of other words that add up to that same number. So an example is Aleph, which actually adds up to the same numerical value as the Hebrew word ruach, which means breath and spirit. Right there gives you some really in-depth information that breath and spirit are one. Breath work, pranayama, diaphragmatic breathing. Yes, it has a physical effect. It moves you from sympathetic, which is fight, flee, and fear, to parasympathetic, which is safety and health. But it's also you're breathing in spirit. You're breathing in each other. We're breathing in each other. We're still breathing some of the molecules that were breathed out by the dinosaurs. We are so much more connected to everything than we have any idea of.
Unbelievable to think of it like that. Like I'm kind of like, my mind's blown right now. I don't think that I would have gone there thinking we are breathing each other, but we are.
Yes.
And then dinosaurs.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
And our DNA, the DNA of dinosaurs, our DNA is forever. So we never die. Our bodies might move into another dimension, but we exist, and we will always exist.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
It's just one of those beautiful pieces. What is your favorite massage? Because you do every massage, which I'm blown away with, really. What is the one that you feel is your favorite?
Well, it's kind of like, what's your favorite word? Well, I can tell you what my favorite poem is.
What is your favorite word? Is there a word that you love?
Love.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Love.
But I think I really let the body talk to me.
Okay.
And, I love deep tissue. I love getting in there and really relieving and releasing the fascia. But I really love the Ayurvedic massage, which is very much a lot of spiraling down the spine and down the different channels and moving energy.
I don't think I've ever had an Ayurvedic massage. So is it just similar to it, but you're doing a lighter touch? Because I've had lymphatic massage.
Lymphatic is a lot lighter. Lymphatic is just, you're barely stroking. This is somewhere between the two, I guess. I begin by doing the channel down the back, and I just do circular movements all the way down the spine with the hot oil. And then I move that energy up the spine and then down. And I do that down all the channels of the back. I do that down the arms, do that down the legs. And it's a powerful detoxifying.
That's what I was going to ask. What would that one be designed for?
Yes. It's
detoxing.
And very good for the lymphatic system.
Okay. So it's a lymphatic connection.
Yeah.
Reiki Master. And how long have you been practicing Reiki?
Well, it's interesting that I started practicing it before I knew it was Reiki. First, I'd like to say I think that we all are Reiki practitioners, especially mothers, because when their child is hurting, you immediately put your hand on that area. It's like instinct. So remember that, we have these 7 major chakras that most people talk about, but we have dozens and dozens of chakras in our hands. So it's a great way to send energy. And I love showing people how when they rub their hands together and they can actually feel that energy when they move it apart, they can feel it spreading and they can feel it strengthening as they move it together.
Doing it now.
Yeah. So our hands have a lot of great channels for energy. Have to say that my roommate and best bud and co-healer, Robin.
Let's give her a little shout out, Robin.
Robin Arrieta is the ultimate Reiki teacher. I just think you would do yourself such a service to go to her, because hers is so filled with light and so filled with love and goes in such depth. And I've seen some other, in fact, people that she's taught teach Reiki, and they just don't even come close to how she's able to do that.
She's very plugged in.
She is. She's brilliant, and her sessions are amazing. So just wanted to put that out there too.
I love it.
But basically, Reiki is where you are aligned and energized with certain sacred symbols and sounds that you visualize and you repeat within your head as you're sending that divine energy. So you're just a wand, just a conduit, and you're receiving that energy through the crown chakra, and you're sending it out through your hands and your intention. It's your hands just start heating up. People say, "Oh gosh, your hands are so hot." Yes, that's the Reiki energy coming through, and it's just so peaceful. It's so loving. It's so gentle, but it also can really bring stuff up. So an example is I was doing Reiki on a client several years ago, and it was her first Reiki experience, and she started sobbing uncontrollably on the table. And I asked her what was going on, and she said that She had been raped 5 years before and had done counseling, but it just came up, the despair and the sorrow just came up during the session. Just speaking about it helped her, and we were able to complete the session. And then I gave her a Bach Flower Remedy to deal with the past traumatic experience.
Because the emotion.
Yes, and she called me several days later and said she had not felt that good and that free in years.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm blown away with that. That's amazing. I mean, just the things that, I'm so excited to be alive right now, right? Because I just say, yeah, there's some chaos going on and blah, blah, blah. We'll get through it. But just of all these things that we have in our forefront and where we are, I know that you've had a metaphysical store that you closed up here in Texas in 2010. If that store was here now, can you imagine? I mean, because people are just hungry for it. We're just looking for it. I remember back in the day, when I was in high school, there was this store that was across the street from my high school, and everybody would call it the woo-woo store, like the hippie woo-woo store. But I would go over every day on my lunch, and there was tarot card readers there on Wednesday. There was a palmist on Friday, and it was just a big, gigantic bookstore with crystals all in it and all kinds of fun stuff. And every lunch, I could not wait to get there. And I remember when it closed and I was like, why would something like this so magical close? Well, it just wasn't. It was ahead of its time. Your store.
Yes.
Yours and Robin's store was ahead of its time.
Yeah. We kept it going for 10 years, but I never made a paycheck in 10 years.
Yeah.
Eventually you had to.
You got to say goodbye,
Yeah.
right? But it's just amazing because those stores now, people are looking for them and they're popping up now, which is beautiful.
Which is fabulous, yes. And, sometimes you got to be the forerunner. Sometimes you got to be the pioneer. And we closed it in 2010. I still have people come up and say how much they missed our shop.
Just think of all those people that you did connect with and touched.
And are still connected with.
Yeah, how beautiful
later.
Is that?
Yes.
14 years later.
A real gift. And plus, I also realized in the process that my heart is with the services and not the selling, not the products. Even though I love the products and I know them so well, and I love helping people with herbs and supplements, but I don't want to sell. I want to help empower people.
We need everybody. We need you. We need the people that do like to sell, that wants to be in the forefront. And it's just so beautiful. Dr. Samantha, do people call you doctor?
Some do, yeah.
I like that, Doc. Dr. Samantha Vanderslice. Such a great last name, Vanderslice. Where can people go if they want to connect with you or they want to learn more about this? And maybe somebody's interested in maybe the Bach flowers. My
website is SamanthaVanderslice.com, but I really just suggest people email me, Cosmic Mama, MAMMA @yahoo.com. We can start a dialogue and we can set up some time to connect. So Cosmic Mama @yahoo.com. Right. I almost said Yahoo or AOL. So cosmicmama@yahoo.com is the best way to get a hold of you. Yes. It is the easiest way. You check your email all the time. And then you can really kind of just suggest, hey, you want to be a student. Let's do something like this. Or you want to be a client. You need a practitioner. You need healing. You need some love. Exactly. What else are you doing out there? Are you doing anything else that we can find you? Well, I'm just starting something up, and it's called HOPE, which stands for Hands of Peace Extended, and is just pulling together a bunch of people that are healers and lovers of humanity, and we're doing healing at a distance. It's a new technique that I've learned subsequently from the International Board of Hypnotherapists, remote healing, and it's so powerful and so beautiful. And the people that are sending the healing to the person gets a healing as well. I'm just starting to put that together. Okay. But as far as, I have to say, the weak link in my experience is that I'm not a self-promoter. No, that's okay. And so I am on Facebook and I check it once in a while. Yeah. But I'm not on Twitter and I'm not on Instagram or any of that. I just figure if the person is really the right fit and wants the help that I can offer, that they'll connect.
Oh, that's so beautiful. I love everything that you do, Doc. You are just beautiful soul. I am really excited because you're going to be at the First Spiritual Church of Austin on October 26th from 10 to 3 for their Halloween festivity, which is really an amazing place to have a Halloween festival. You're going to be reading tarot cards, but there's a bunch going on.
October 26th. It's from 10 to 3, and it's a whole big event, and people are going to dress up.
Dr. Samantha Vanderslice, you can find her at cosmicmama@yahoo.com. That's the best way to connect with her. She has just a plethora of information. She is a practitioner of everything, basically. PhD in physical sciences, a reverend of Church of Metaphysical Sciences, massage therapist of every kind of type of massage that you can think of, a Reiki Master, Esogetic Colorpuncture. She's also a hypnotherapist, which is amazing. Bach Flower Remedies. She's a practitioner, also a teacher, a tarot card reader. She is an author. She's designing a brand new deck to row yourself into the new age. She's got so many beautiful things going on. She is wonderful, and connect up with her if you even just have a question about what direction to go, or hey, what do you think about this? Because she's a lovely soul and she'd love to connect up with you. Remember, at the age of 12, she was trying to find world peace. Some of us were riding bikes and she was wanting world peace. So she's very highly in tuned with this world. I want to say thank you, Doc, for being here. I appreciate you so much. And I appreciate everyone out there for listening. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Open the Eye. To be a guest on the show, go to opentheye.com, or you can email at opentheye13@gmail.com. We appreciate you.